It's the middle of summer, and I have a great harvest of Roma tomatoes because my garden is freaking beautiful this year, and I'm really enjoying it. And one of my favorite things to do with Roma tomatoes from my garden is make a fresh marinara with roasted tomatoes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how I do it. I've only done this twice before, and they both came out really good, but I'm in a new garden with a new kitchen, so some things might go wrong. We'll have to see. So here are the primary ingredients we're going to be dealing with. Okay, first off, I have already taken my Roma tomatoes and I've cut them in half and chopped off the green parts at the top. The only ingredients from my garden I'm not going to use, well, vegetables wise, is I have an onion and some garlic that I bought at the store. And then the other main things I'm going to do are just add some general seasoning, and then I'm going to roast them in these pans. I'm also going to make some meatballs to go with this, so you'll see. Let me show you guys my garden, okay? So here's my garden. It's down off my porch. You'll have to excuse the fan from the air conditioner. Let's walk down there and take a peek at it. Decided to do my cooking video outside because my kids are right next to the kitchen playing video games, and I didn't want that noise. And luckily my neighbor has his dogs out, so it's delightful. Pardon the barking. So this is my garden, and it is late afternoon, so pardon the lighting. It's a little weird. I always plant some flowers in my garden just because it gets pollinators out there, and it's good stuff. Now, some of the early plants that I planted did not take hold very well and fell over. So this is actually a tomato plant that fell over at the stalk and then kept growing. So it shot another stalk upwards in addition to the one that fell over. This is a big chili plant. I'm going to be using one of those chilies in this. More tomatoes. This one isn't doing very well. This is my, no, this is my big chili plant. This is my bell pepper plant. It never took off. Here is my jalapeno plant. Here's my first highly successful growing tomato plant. You can see I have one still on the vine there that's almost ripe, but he's not going. This is all my basil. Oh my goodness, I love basil. And for those of you who have never grown basil down in the South, it grows incredible, but the it flowers very quickly, and once basil starts flowering, it will stop making the leaves look luscious. Yes, we are in Georgia in the South, so I'm very glistening today, so pardon me. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take this garlic and smash it, and this onion and cut up a little bit of it. I'm gonna mix it up with olive oil, salt, pepper, and some dried spices. Now you might be wondering why I would use dry spices in this, and the main reason is that I don't, the fresh ones might burn. The dried ones I feel will do better roasting in the oven and impart some of their flavor over into the tomatoes. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking some of this onion. I've cut off the end, and I don't want to really do much to this. I don't want to treat it very well. I just want to get the dry skin part off, and then I want to cut it into like wedges, which will then roast in the oven. So I've just got some rough chunks of onion that I'm going to use, and I'm throwing them in with my tomatoes. I'm tempted to use the whole onion because I really like onion, but I also don't want to lose some of the flavor of the tomatoes. So I think I might only put like 3/4 of an onion in here, just because that's just where I am. I don't want to overpower it, overpower the tomatoes with an onion flavor. Well, then again, that really doesn't look like much onion. So I don't know. I think I might take that back. I think I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna go ahead and put this whole onion in here. If it's too oniony, I'm gonna blame you people. The next thing I want to do is I want to get some garlic in here. Now, garlic, of course, is always going to be better if you buy it whole. I want to put about 6 or 8 cloves of garlic in here. the real trick to this is you want to get all this, you want to get all the skin off of it, and then you want to mash it a little bit. A lot of people might roast their garlic and have roasted garlic in there that's kind of pasty, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to squash this with my knife and then peel off the outside of this. Hold on, mash a little better. So you get it all squished up, right? And then you just take this out. And then I'm going to cut off that little wooden end and then throw this piece of squashed garlic into the thing here. Actually, I might chop that up a little bit too, just so it gets on more than one piece of tomato to flavor it. Eee. So, more garlic. More garlic. Okay, I poured myself a nice glass of wine because I need to cool down. Oh, Sauvignon Blanc. Next thing I'm going to do is make sure these things are covered with delicious olive oil. Okay, because we want them to roast, we don't want them to burn. So I'm going to put a bunch of olive oil on here. And then I'm going to do something kind of wacky. The olive oil should help, but I'm also going to take some cooking spray, which is usually just canola oil, and I'm going to put it on these bowls so that my stuff doesn't stick, okay? I'm also going to give it a couple of big turns. I'm going to put a bunch of salt in here because salt is delicious, and I use kosher salt. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of dried Italian seasoning because I want some of that. That's going to have some basil, some oregano, and some rosemary in there that I want for the flavors. Now I'm going to put those in the fresh sauce as well. But right now I just want some of these to get in here with the flavoring. And then I'll put some turns of my pepper on there, but I can't do that with just one hand. I remembered that I forgot one prime ingredient because I had it on the counter and I forgot to bring it outside with me. Bell peppers. Bell peppers, don't forget those. So what I'm doing now is I'm cutting my bell peppers in half, watching my camera fall to the table. Remind me to get a camera stand for my phone. That's a good idea. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to beat out all the seeds, rip out as much of this little ribbing in the middle, and then I'm not going to worry about cutting these up very much either. I'm just going to make large strips and throw them into the bowl. Delicious wine. Oh. Again, rip out all the insides, make sure you've got all the seeds out, cut it up into chunks. And I apologize to all the chefs who are watching right now. My knife is a little bit dull, and so I'm sure you guys are all horrified watching how I'm cutting things with my knife right now, but I need to get it sharpened. So here we go. We've got my tomatoes and my bell peppers and my onions all laid out. Now I'm going to do two more things here. One is if there's any little loose pieces of garlic, I'm going to try to tuck those into a tomato. Okay? And the reason is that will help make sure that the garlic doesn't burn. There is few things that will mess up Italian cooking more than if you burn your garlic. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure that all my tomatoes are face up. And that might seem a silly distinction, but I kind of want all of my moisture to evaporate out of the bowl. I do not want the moisture to go down and then actually start like boiling the vegetables here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these in a 350 degree oven. Now I've heard 300 degrees for 2 hours is perfect, but I don't have 2 hours. And so I'm gonna cook this at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. And then I'm gonna see how it looks, and I might broil them as well. Okay, so I think I've managed to fix something up here using a clamp. We'll see if this works. Hold on. So now we're gonna make some meatballs, okay? And what I've done for my meatballs is I have gotten some pork and some beef. Now I got a lot because the pork was only available in 1.5 pounds, and I didn't want to get too. I wanted them to be even, if a little bit heavy on the beef. So we're going to take our ground pork and our ground beef out of the packages and put them in our bowl. Boop. Boop. This is 1.5 pounds of ground beef and 1.5 pounds of ground pork. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna rip it up so that it all mixes together. And then I'm gonna put in additional ingredients to try and make sure these get mixed most effectively. I thought about getting mild Italian sausage, but I changed my mind. I just decided that wasn't real high on my priority list. And by the way, I am washing my hands in between sections of this. So I'm gonna add a bunch of salt, just because my family is a huge salt-loving family. I'm going to add some pepper too, but right now my pepper mill is holding up my camera. I'm gonna add some more of this Italian spice that I have, this basically Italian spice blend that I put on a gazillion things. And then one other thing I'm gonna add is I'm gonna add ground Parmesan cheese. Now, I normally would use cheaper Parmesan than this for meatballs, but this particular brand, Frigo, this aged Parmesan was on sale. So we'll do that. And add all this Parmesan to this delightful meat mixture. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add breadcrumbs. Now, I sort of cheat with the breadcrumbs. I should make them from hand, but I don't. I buy regular breadcrumbs, and then I tend to use a half and half mixture of breadcrumbs and panko breadcrumbs, just because panko is supposed to be better at everything. Now, after I do this, I'm gonna need to add some eggs. And I have 4 eggs I'm gonna add here because I don't mind my meatballs being a little goopy. But I do need to add the pepper, so give me half a second. I'm gonna take my pepper mill away. And I'm gonna add lots and lots and lots of pepper. Okay, so I have added pepper, Parmesan cheese. I'm about to add my eggs. Crack my eggs into a bowl. And mix them up. There's no shell in there. And what the egg does is it helps everything bind together. The proteins in the egg yolks will help everything kind of bind together into a ball. Actually, I might not need all this egg. This might be too much. 3 might have been good. Let's try that. And now I'm gonna mix all this up. Oh, yeah. Like I said, I have been washing my hands regularly, so if you're getting grossed out, please recognize that during these cuts, a lot of times that's what I'm doing. I am heading to the kitchen to wash my hands. Okay, again, my goal here is to kind of incorporate everything together. And I want to make sure I'm getting all those ingredients that I put on top are getting regularly added to other bits. I almost feel like I might have a need for some more breadcrumbs, but I'm not going to do it. I think I'm just gonna stick with what I got. The one thing I am worried about is that I haven't added enough salt. My family loves salt, but I'm counting on the Parmesan to do the salt bit. They've been cooking for about 30 minutes. They're looking really, really good. You'll notice I did throw some peppers on top there. I realized I didn't add any heat, and I kind of wanted a little bit of heat. So we'll see how this goes. Now we're going to add the meatballs. We're still cooking at 350 degrees. We're going to see how this goes. But I think this should work just fine. We'll see. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and get some fresh veggies from my basil, my rosemary, and I have some oregano down in the downstairs garden. I'm gonna grab that, and once we get the sauce pureed and I heat it up, then we're gonna put it in then to get some of the flavor of those fresh veggies in there. I had a little friend in here earlier. I had an aunt. So here are my fresh spices that I'm gonna mince up and put into my fresh pasta. I've got some basil leaves, I've got some rosemary, and I've got some fresh oregano. I'm gonna separate them out into individual dishes so that I can then use them to kind of season the dishes as I see fit. So for this part, I accidentally recorded a picture instead of a video, so we'll talk a little bit here. The vegetables and the meatballs, I ended up cooking about 30 minutes more for the vegetables, so an hour and 15, and about 15 more minutes for the meatballs, so a total of about 45 minutes at 350. And then I spatulaed the vegetables into the food processor and spun them up. Hello.
Will you do that for me? Get ready for bed before dinner. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and pour this into here. And let's give it a little taste. Oh wow, that's really, really good. I'm not sure I need much more added to that. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in a little bit of my fresh herbs just because I feel bad not including them in the recipe. And then what we're gonna do is put this over low heat and let this simmer and hope that the fresh herb flavor gets in there a little better. Meanwhile, I think our meatballs are doing really, really well. They look delicious. I've heard stories that fresh pasta is better, but nowadays I'm hearing stories to the contrary as well. So I'm just taking some linguine, putting it in some hot salted water, and seeing how it goes. Boop! So I've taken about 2/3 of the cooked pound of noodles, probably maybe 3/4, and I'm going to take about 3 of these scoops and put them in there and take this delicious sauce and save the rest of it. Oops. And then I'm going to take these noodles and spin them with this wonderful, wonderful sauce. This is the pot that I cooked it in, or that I cooked the noodles in, so it's still a little bit warm, and that'll make sure that you don't end up losing any of the heat. Then what I'm going to do is put some of this out for the kids. And for me. Ooh, it's hot. Hot, 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 hot. Lastly, a couple of meatballs for everybody. I'm gonna save this little piece of crispy Parmesan cheese that ended up on the plate for me. And we've got a delicious meal. Yay! Hope you enjoyed watching.